What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. This is our top 10 hottest selling comics of the week, our weekly video series brought to you by PopCultureZone.com. Before we get into this week's top 10 books, don't forget to check out PopCultureZone.com's. Their links are below. Check them out if you're interested in getting your hands on some awesome exclusive and incentive variants at affordable costs, CGC slabs, and of course all different kinds of pop culture items, including toys and statues. And if you're buying raw books, they ship at a flat rate fee of only $4.99. You also do not pay taxes, with the exception of New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they still hold a 100% customer feedback rating with over 8,000 ratings this year alone. So again, those links are below to their website and their eBay store. Check them out and make sure you follow them on eBay as well.
We go through the top 10 quickly, and then Chris just kind of dissects it and tells you the three he picked and why they're interesting. So we're just going to get to it. We're just going to get to it. Am I right, Chris?
Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. At number 10, Moon Knight 3 Walmart variant, first appearance of Hunter's Moon. At number 9, The Eternals, number 3, first appearance of Cersei. Number 8, Avengers 232, the first appearance of Eros as Star Fox. I'm loving this, guys, by the way. At number 7, we have Strange Tales 179, the first appearance of Pip the Troll. We haven't said it. Why? I don't know. If, I mean, I don't know if there's spoilers at this point. It's
right.
Number 6, Marvel premiere. Number 10, the first Shuma Gorath. Number 5 is Thor. Number 6, the second print. Number 4, Morbius, the Living Vampire. Number 1, the first solo Morbius title. At number 3, we have Werewolf by Night, first appearance of Jake Gomez. At number 2, we have Eternals number 1. And at number 1, Thumbs number 1. All right, Chris. So those are our top 10 books. What actually, just give us kind of like your first initial thoughts from that list. Well, even though this came out on Monday, and you had many thoughts.
Bring it back up. Bring it back up. Marvel, 9 Marvel, and then Thumbs. So big up to Thumbs for pushing through all the Marvel goodness. And the thing that's going on here, folks, with Marvel, this is all this Marvel pretty much is all MCU right now, for the most part. You know, Moon Knight, you know, a new character showing up there, plus a Walmart variant, whatever, and even the Thor variant, but everything else. And what else is it? What else is it? It's heavily Eternals. So for my 3 picks today, there's going to be some Eternals related stuff, and there's something very important that I think that relates to why Eternal stuff being on this list, it should be talked about. So number 3, Avengers 232. All right. So I think the cat's out of the bag with this one. If you haven't seen Eternals yet, seen the end credit scenes, maybe you should pause this or mute it, or, you know, end the show. But I'm just going to say it. This is the first appearance of Eros as Star Fox, who did show up in the end credit scene of Eternals. Let's just look at these numbers, because this book has been on here for at least a couple weeks now. 107% increase in sales, with a CGC 9.8 high of $1,000. Get this, previous high before the leak. Now remember, the end credit scene with Harry Styles playing Star Fox was leaked before the release of the film. $219. $219, and that was just a month ago. That's a 357% increase in value. So let's discuss this, folks. We got to remember that supply and demand, supply only relates to what is available on the market at any given time. So am I stating that to justify this book sitting at $1,000 for CGC 9.8? No, but I'm stating it to let you all remember and understand that in a matter of a month. First off, this book, before the announcement, wasn't getting much attention anyways, and you could probably still find it raw in a back issue bin for $3, $4, $5, $6, something like that, right? Now it's got the attention, and there's not many 9.8s on the market. All right. You probably got people rushing to get their high grades to CGC or CBCS or whatnot, but there's not many out there. So that kind of explains why you can have such a huge jump of 357% increase in such a short amount of time. On top of the fact, and I talk about this a lot, the 9.8 market right now is still crazy. People are crazy over 9.8 books. So this kind of goes into what we talked about for all the Disney Plus announcements and all these books for these characters that are getting their own shows or that are showing up in the MCU. What is the future of Star Fox or Eros in the MCU? You know, is it going to be be in one film? Is he going to, you know, be a key player, just a background player? These things do, you know, relate to what a book's going to do on the market, but it's also how we as the fans take to these characters, how we remember these characters. And if we want to I don't want to say fall in love, but if we bond with these characters and enjoy these characters so much that it takes us back to the comic books, right? All of that is yet to be seen. There's people saying, oh, Harry Styles, what does the MCU do? What is Marvel doing now? This is going to bomb. You know, but hey, you know, don't knock it till you rock it, right? I mean, we ain't seen him do his thing yet. So chill. Just because he was part of a boy band don't mean nothing, right? Anyways, buy this book in a 9.8 right now. No, don't do it. Well, do whatever you want to do, right? But again, this has been a common theme, but I've been saying on these shows every week, go out and find yourself a raw copy, folks. Go out and find yourself a raw copy, please. A high raw did sell for 108. Now, I don't know what the condition of that high raw is, but let's just say hypothetically that you could find one that you might think is a 9.8 for $180 raw. You spend a little bit of money to send it to CGC, it may come back and you may be able to sell it and flip for $4,000. I don't know, but hey, I'm very excited to see what Harry Styles is going to do with this character in the MCU. And although I do think, you know, depending on when we see him next, the book's going to probably cool down a little bit. And the CGCs, the 9.8s, if people are rushing, you know, the sellers are rushing to get their books to CGC once they get them back, and you have an influx of 9.8s on the market, supply and demand is going to, you know, it's going to teeter some, and watch that 9.8 come down a bit more. Is this book, again, I say this a lot too, is this book going to be your standard back issue book anymore? Nope, those days are gone.
I agree. And, you know, everybody giving shit to Harry Styles. He was in Dunkirk. He's done some stuff. You know what I mean? So like, it's not like they're just picking a boy band guy because he's popular. Like, when have they ever failed us in terms of casting in the films? Think about it. Like, when?
Well, I will say. Can I say? I was really annoyed at Sprite in Eternals.
You know what? You saying that to me made me think, huh? She didn't annoy me. So like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a thought to me. The character itself kind of, I don't know, a little sour pants, but I guess he's been like that in the comics. I think it's a he in the comics. So
yeah.
But I mean, you'd be pissed too if you couldn't grow up. But anyways, again, let's just give it some time. See how it goes. They really haven't failed us overall in any of the casting for Marvel. So I'm excited to see how it goes from there. All right, good one, man. So that being said, you have two more picks left. Let's get to your second pick. What do you got, Chris?
All right, pick number 2, and this is very relevant moving forward. I recently did it was like a top 10 Marvel number under, and you know, I don't use the term undervalued a lot at all. But I had 10 books, number 1 books. This book was on there. I did this a few months back. Morbius the Living Vampire, number 1, from 1992, his first solo series, for solo titled series for Morbius. This book is getting hot. Plus, it's a tie into the Rise of the Midnight Suns. We saw 126% increase in sales with the CGC 9.8 high sale of $225. Raw fair market value is sitting at around $16 right now, with the high raw going for $25. So again, just these 9.8s are crazy, guys. Again, another book that you're not going to see a lot of 9.8s on the market because this was a dollar bin book, you know, for the most part. So now you probably got people rushing to send those 9.8s in. So once they do, I just be very, very careful with the supply of 9.8s on the market, you know, outweighing the demand at some point. But I still think this is a very affordable decent little key that has low risk if you're not buying that CGC 9.8. That I think, look, I talked about Morbius a lot the last couple of weeks since the trailer. I think Morbius is going to be fire. I think the movie's going to be solid. And I think Morbius is going to be in the MCU for a long time, you know, courtesy of Sony, obviously. I think we're going to see that. So I do see this book continuing to pick up some steam, you know, but again, just be very careful with it. It's a 90s book, early 90s book. There's a lot of them out there. So just don't go crazy on eBay or in claim sales. Go to your local LCSs, look in the back issue bins. If you can still find a nice high grade of this book for under $15, I think it's a decent buy. Hold on to it. Let's see how Morbius plays out. Because I don't think this is just going to be a one movie thing, you know, and then his books are going to cool off. I really do feel like Morbius is going to be a mainstay in the MCU for a while.
Yeah, man, I was blown away by that trailer, to be honest with you. And it's hard for anything to do that to me. I was excited about it. I've been burnt before. But we'll see. Like, I have high hopes for it. It looks really, I mean, from the trailer, it looks really good, and it has those connections to the MCU. So again, we'll see. You could definitely find those for cheap still. I mean, how many, you know, that was definitely a high print run, early 90s, which doesn't mean anything other than the fact that they're probably available out there. So definitely be searching for those in the wild for sure. This next book, though, it's going to be a little bit harder to find in the wild, just in the, you know, some back issue bin. Chris, set it up. What do you got?
Very interesting for me to talk about this book this week. Some of you watching may be like, really? You picked that book? But I did. And it is Eternals #1 for my #1 pick. Here's the thing, folks. The reason why I found it very interesting to talk about this book over this last week is because this film's been out in the theaters now for, is 2 weeks? Are we going on?
No, I think it first came out last week.
Was it last weekend?
Well, yeah, technically Thursday of last.
Or Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that when I went and saw it? I can't remember. Gosh.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh man, seems like a year ago. Anyways, this book was moving on the market after the release. After the release, we saw increases in units sold. All right. Now, here's the thing that you know you want to be aware of, though, because I'm not going to sell you fool's gold. The fair market value is down. The high CGC 9.8 that sold this last week was $2,100. The high on record was in May for $3,800. All right. So that is a huge difference. But let me put some things in perspective, because there's a lot of people that tend to lean on the more negative side of these things. And this is what's speculation. It just bubbles them up and they pop and all this. In May, all right, from May to October, the fair market value for this book in a CGC 9.8 hovered around $3,000. All right. That's from May to October. Now, I know we had a high sale of $3,800, but most of the sales hovered around $2,800 to $3,200, around there. Fair market value is nothing but an average. It's a moving and rolling average. You always have to keep that in mind. It's never an exact science. When you look at what the book sold for in a 9.8 this last week for $2,100, and you compare that to the moving fair market value average of $3,000 from May to October, that's roughly a 30% overall dip. Now, 30% is a large drop, guys. It is, especially for such a high, you know, 3,000 to 2,100. That's a large chunk of money. But it sounds much more different than your, like, what, 45+% drop of 3,800 to 2,100. So that's why I always try to tell you all, don't focus on individual sales so much. If we focus on individual sales so much, a lot of times there are those that are really more of outliers that kind of distort what's really going on with a fair market value in totality. So again, the interesting thing about this book is that, yes, the demand has dropped down, but now that the movie's released, units are being sold more. They're picking up steam again, even though the fair market value is not at its peak. But what does that say to me? And it's really interesting because I had a lot of issues with this film. I've never had issues with Marvel films, even the ones that are lower on my list. I'm like, yeah, this, that, and this, but I've never been one to critique any MCU film. I think this is the first real MCU film that I critiqued, actually outside of Incredible Hulk. I need to watch it again, and I don't want to say it's a horrible movie. I think it had so much potential, and it could have did more. I think it set up so many great things, though. But it goes to show you that there's and I look at the forums, there's a lot of people that are really enjoying what they did with this film. And although I think there should have been less characters in the movie, I think it got the Justice League treatment. Too many characters trying to give too many individual backstories instead of just focusing on the mythos of the Celestials and the Eternals. There were a few characters in there. I loved Angelina Jolie's character, and I thought there should have been more of her. Cersei was great as well. I do believe these characters, they're great actors, and with the right vision and the right writers and directors, we're going to see these characters play significant parts throughout the MCU over, I don't know, the next coming years, whether it's in in Eternals 2, or whether it's in just different films and they're showing up, right? And I think that right there is going to continue to drive the demand of Eternal stuff. Because remember, Eternals 3 was on this list too. First appearance of Cersei as we know her in the Eternals. So it just goes to show you there is demand still, regardless of how people are kind of teeter-tottering on what they thought of the film. There's so much talk about nobody wanted this movie. Nobody cared about Eternals. Well, nobody cared about Guardians of the Galaxies until James Gunn did his thing. And although, you know, personally, I think this is far off from a Guardians of the Galaxy film, these characters are still being celebrated as seen from the movie. And like I said, I think they're going to be around and they're going to play a solid role. So I look for this book to, again, you know, this one did have a decent dip, but I do feel that this is going to be one that does this. It's going to be a bit more volatile, but it's going to continue as a Kirby Bronze Age key comic. It is going to definitely increase for the long term. So I think it's a solid long-term investment. Is it the right time to buy? I'm never one to say if it's right or wrong, but look, it's down from where it was. It's still higher than where it was before we even got any type of trailer or announcement. And I do think it's going to gradually go back up over time.